What up, guys? It's fan service Renji. I'm with my co-host.
Shana Mostella.
Real quick, I just want to give you a brief rundown of what this podcast is going to be about. We're going to be talking about the Comic Con cosplay world. We're going to be talking about anime, video games, and a lot of aspects of nerd culture. We're also very unorthodox nerds, I guess. So we're going to be talking a lot about our life and just what led us to this path of nerd enlightenment. Now that I've introduced the podcast, I guess I should introduce myself for those that don't know who I am. My name is Renji. I'm originally from the Midwest. I guess I've been a nerd almost my whole life, but I also have a lot of aspects about me that people wouldn't think that about that nerd life, or the nerd life wouldn't think that's also a part of my life, such as I'm a big hip hop head. My older brothers always be bumping all kinds of hip hop, so I grew up on a lot of the 80s rap, the gangster era. I was all about NWA, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, yay yay. And it's weird. On one end, I'd be playing with my action figures, reading comic books, playing video games, but in the background, you would hear NWA blasting. And that's just the kind of life I live. So that's why I said it's very unorthodox. I'm into a lot of things on both sides of the spectrum. Loved hip hop so much, eventually became a part of a hip hop group, used to tour through the Midwest. At the same time, I got into cosplay and convention life, and that started taking over. So I kind of had balanced both worlds. I've been a guest at cons, I performed my music at cons, I've been a speaker, and yeah, fast forward to today, it has brought me to Los Angeles. So here I am, dropping this podcast. Shauna?
Hey guys, so I'm Shana Mostella. I was born and raised in the Midwest in Chicago, to be exact. I grew up in kind of questionable area of Chicago, if you know what I mean. A little hood, a little hoodish, So, what really got me into like the nerdum culture was just, it was my anti-drug. Like there was a lot of, crime around where I lived and like a lot of drugs and a lot of, things that a young kid shouldn't be doing. So I guess I just flocked towards the nerdum life because of that, because it really truly saved my life and it truly saved me from being a statistic, basically. So I fell in love with anime. I started watching, a lot of stuff like that was on HBO, and, stuff that kids weren't really supposed to watch, but it was just anime. It was just, to me, it was just cartoons. But then I fell in love with it because of all the sci-fi references and all the fantasy and things like that. So it really drew me to it. And I started going to, you guys remember Borders, the bookstore? And I used to go there all the time after school and just started reading the mangas and everything. So it pretty much just kept me off the streets between reading manga and watching anime. Like I had no money for drugs anymore. So, it really did save my life. And I've been going hard with it ever since. But along with that, I am very much into fashion. Fashion is my one and true passion. And, doing fashion, it's led me to being a model. I've done modeling. I've been an actress. I've been on sets and stuff like that. I've been in plays. Fashion has really gotten me involved in all of those things. But the one thing that I just keep coming back to is fashion. I love designing fashion. I love designing costumes and things like that. I love going to conventions, anime conventions, comic cons. I love wearing my costumes to them and everything. I love making costumes for other people as well. So fashion has really just kept me busy and kept me focused, and it's led me here to California. And it's just what I've been doing for 10 years now, and I love it.
Originally, I wanted to start the very first episode of the podcast off on some fun, positive stuff. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way, and a sleazeball in the cosplay community has resurfaced. He was one of the hottest topics of 2019, so I figured let's start the year reviewing that. So today's video, we're going to be talking about creepy ass cosplay photographers, two in particular. One that was very unexpected, and one that was kind of expected. If you knew this person, you kind of saw the signs, but it still took you for a shock. So let's start with the expected person. Last year, a cosplayer that goes by the name of Hello Kimmy Cosplay, she made a post about her experience with him. It was pretty much when she was underage and she interacted with this guy. And she has a whole Google Drive worth of receipts and evidence just showing their exchanges. And when I say receipts, I mean screenshots of text messages, Facebook messages. It exposed Ryzen as being a pedophile. In these messages, she's clearly telling him that she's in high school, and he's acknowledging that she is underage. So it's all there. I don't want to get in too specific about it because I will post a link to the Google Drive and you guys can look through it yourself. There's a lot of stuff there. She was smart enough to keep over 2 years worth of messages and exchanges she had with him. I remember there's one picture and she posted something about that she was at band camp and you could see him commenting like, ooh, you're so sexy in that outfit. So he would make a lot of those inappropriate comments. And then there was another one where he said something along the lines of, oh, this feels so dangerous because I know you're underage. So he's pretty much snitching on himself. Like I said, it's all there in the Google Drive. I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly the words anymore. Y'all can look at it. And he's really snitching on himself. There's no question. Within this drive, there is talks about when they hooked up and had sex and all that stuff. So it's all there. So he has snitched on himself that he had sex with a minor and thinks it's dangerous and risque.
Some people might look at it and think, okay, well, this person's agreeing to have sex with this person and whatever. But you have to keep in mind, like, when you're underage or when you're at a certain age, like, you're not really thinking so much for yourself. You're just kind of going along with these people because you think you can trust them. And that's what's so dangerous about statutory rape is because these women, these people who are underage don't know what they're doing and don't know what they're saying to this person just because they think that they can trust that person, they think it's okay. But statutory rape is a thing for a reason.
Oh, and quick note, the age gap is she's like 16, like she's like 15 or
Yeah,
16 and he's
26.
he's like at least 10 years older than her. He's
Mhm.
in his mid 20s while she's 15, 16 talking about I'm in high school.
And that's what's so dangerous about it is because when you're an older person and you're talking to someone younger, like, like, as an older person, you're talking to a younger human being. Like, you're doing this. Like, you're doing it for a reason because younger people, again, like, they don't know what they're doing. So, you're taking advantage of that person and you're trying to do that because you want something from them. And that's why it's so easy to get that from someone who's younger than you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially within the con scene,
Hmm.
he used that to his advantage. I believe his term is grooming,
Yes.
where he takes someone that's younger and you kind of like raise them to be what you want them to be. So you're grooming them to be your side chick, your
Right.
little sex object. In the con scene, unfortunately, a lot of young people want to go to conventions and they can't afford to go.
Hmm.
So a tactic that he would use was he would book a big room or a suite and offer free places to stay.
Right.
And as for people that have personally known him, because like we said earlier, Shauna and I are both from the Midwest, Ryzen's from Chicago.
Hmm.
So we've interacted with him a few times. And
More than a few
a
times.
few times, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
like
he's
yeah.
been a staple within the con community.
He pretty much was a staple within the con community. He would show up at events. So locally, people knew who he was. Going back to the whole grooming and the tactics he used, it was very common of him and his crew to book a big suite and they would invite people to come stay.
Hmm.
You had experience with that. It was always kind of sketchy because he would invite girls to come stay and girls didn't have to pay or they paid way less than the guys.
Right.
Was that true?
Exactly, because I have had an experience where he did invite me to his room, and I had already had a room, but like he just he was like that. He would just invite you to his room, invite you to stay, and he just comes off as like this person who's like just trying to help. But like back then, we weren't really thinking about it because we don't want to see people that in that light. We don't want to see them as these like predatory figures. But he would invite me to his room, and he would know that I would be with my group and everything like that. But he would still only invite me. I was with males. I had male friends all the time. I always had a male friend with me just for the safety of being at a convention like that. But then like he would never invite them to the room or like invite them to stay over, but it was always just, he'll invite me and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and
and
that was it.
that's just very sketch off the
Hmm.
bat. When you want to invite the girls, but then the guys can't come stay in their room, or if
Exactly.
they did, they had to pay a premium to be a part of that room. Fortunately for you, I assume like you had another room anyway. But there's a lot of people out there that just want to be at the convention. So when someone that has some kind of a presence offers you a free room,
Like,
being
why
you,
wouldn't you
yeah,
take it, you know? Like,
exactly.
why wouldn't you? You would just go with it, but you're not thinking about it at that moment. Like, okay, well, this person's, he's my friend. Like, he's cool. I've seen him at tons of conventions, so he must be okay.
I've spoken to Kimmy. I've spoken to other girls that have room with him, and they can all verify that same fact.
Hmm.
Yeah, we stayed in his room because he offered it to us for free, and we really wanted to go to that con,
Hmm.
so we did. So after going through Hello Kimmy's Google Drive, you can really tell that he really started to manipulate her.
Yeah.
It started with like free rooming, and then he offered to introduce her to people within the community. And again, if you're new to this cosplay community and you want to be involved, that sounds like a great deal. Fast forward to later, he started this whole organization because he went from being a b-boy in the scene to being a quote-unquote photographer, and now he's just offering this whole package deal. If you join my crew and be a part of what I'm doing, you can go to cons for free. I'm a photographer, so I can give you professional photos. I can help make you famous. And of course, that sounds good.
Hmm.
He's selling people a dream, but that's all a part of that manipulation.
Right. As you can see in some of the text messages he sent her and some of the messages he sent her, it was more like, well, he was trying to get close to her in some way. And then he just used that to get closer and closer. And then to the point where it was like, okay, dude, like you're in a relationship with somebody else and you're trying to tell this young girl who you can manipulate into doing anything you want, telling her things like, well, you can be my secret lover. You can be my, secret, thing. Like the whole big point of that, he kept using the word secret. It had to be a secret. No one could know. She couldn't tell anybody, and if she did, he had eyes and ears everywhere. And if she had said something or mentioned it to anybody, he would know.
That's scary being a young person on the scene because you're just trying to be a part of this new thing that you enjoy, but then the person that brought you in the world can also take it away. Like, that's scary. So, of course, you would want to just play along with
Hmm.
it. At the same time, though he was manipulating her, he also played the victim because he was in this relationship, but he would say things to make them feel bad. Why say them? Because I'm sure she wasn't the only one,
Exactly.
because she even said other people came forward to tell their story with them. He would play the victim like, oh yeah, I am in a relationship, but she doesn't give me what I need. So that's why people like you are around, because you fill those voids.
And they saying those things will make anybody feel like they're special. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the only one who can make you feel this way. I'm the only one who can give you these things. And of course, that's going to make anybody, like underage or not, like that makes anybody feel special. And that's how he got these people to be involved in his life.
That's a little of the backstory. Like I said, it's all in the drive, so I don't want to like get too deep into it.
I mean, you
So
might as well
I
touch on
mean,
a couple of things. Like,
yeah. So like, I just want to give people an update. When this evidence came to surface, Kim actually went to the authorities in Illinois
hmm.
to try to press charges because she didn't want anyone else to fall victim to what he was doing. So she took this to the police with all her evidence, and she still had all the phones that these messages were on. So it's
Hmm.
not like there were screenshots, not like there were Photoshop. She had the actual phones that you could still turn on. She tried to go through the process. Unfortunately for her, but lucky for him, there's a limit of how long you can wait to press charges.
Oh, wow.
So he walked away scot free.
That can make any predator make them feel like they can just keep doing it over and over because they're not going to get caught.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell
As
the
yeah,
authorities.
as much proof as she had,
Hmm.
the Illinois police dismissed it because it's been too long.
Right.
This was all she could do, was just come like public online with it. And he got away with it. What was dumb on his part though was when it came online and it was all over the place, he tried to make one last scene about it to just be in the spotlight. I don't know if you remember that. He posted on Instagram. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna make a statement," and had a whole countdown.
Right. He had a whole story on his Instagram
Hmm.
talking about I'm gonna come out with my statement. And he had like a little countdown that was counting down to like the moments. And I swear to you, like everybody was checking that like every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was such a clout
hmm
chasing moment.
It was. He said something like, okay, so I'm not gonna back down. That's what he said.
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
back down. I forgot what he said after that, but he said the words, I'm not gonna back
Yeah,
down.
yeah, that's true. I need more time.
hmm
It's like, bitch, you just had a whole damn countdown. How much more time do you need? Like
But
you
like, what would have said, you know?
Yeah, like what can you say when there's a whole Google Drive of evidence of you snitching on yourself that you had sex with a minor and you didn't care?
And then for like maybe like a whole month straight, he just went offline. Like he was crickets for like a long time. And then, he deleted people off his Facebook, his Instagram. He went totally silent. He went private. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what's that gonna do?
Yeah, he went private and then he deleted everything.
Like it doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't make you any less of a chump that you are, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward to the present and why we're even talking about it right now. It's been over a year since this story came to light. You would think he would just count his blessings, disappear because the police couldn't get him,
Mm-hmm.
even though he was on that R. Kelly shit, and R. Kelly's being prosecuted for old stuff, but this dude gets escaped by. You would think he would count his blessings and just leave. But no. Katsukan is coming up this week, so by the time this podcast airs, it should be a couple days away. He is still on his alternate social media accounts like we don't know it's him.
Right. Oh yeah, he did make his like a new Facebook page or something like that with like half his face
Yeah.
covered with like ski goggles or something, and then he's trying to pose as somebody else, but we all know it's him. And like even people who have been snooping on his page, they've called him out on several accounts.
Yeah. There's been a few people that have made it their mission to keep track of his activities, and they've seen his alternate accounts, his different names. So he's got two accounts where one's like a normal one and one appears to be a photography account. And it kind of gives him away because his photography style, in my honest opinion, kind of sucked. It was just, you're a run in the mill. I bought a DSLR. Look at me. I'm a photographer. And he dropped the same filter on top of every picture. So you know it's him. He's got the Fisher Price photographer kit. Like DSLR, prime lens, same filter. So boom. You could figure out that's him because he's dumb enough to reuse some of his same pictures. But then he's got a normal account where he's trying to get back into the b-boy world. And what brought him to this Katsukan speculation is he posted on this account talking about he can't wait to make his return at Katsukan.
If you're a new person, why would you need to make a return?
Exactly. You this masked b-boy. It's like,
If you're this brand new person or you've just been here this whole time, like why would you need to make a comeback?
exactly.
Why are you still telling on yourself?
Yeah, like this dude just snitching on himself. It's like, yeah, I know the masked singer is popping off on TV, but ain't nobody asked for the masked b-boy.
Exactly. Or the masked photographer or whatever. But, thank goodness for the people who have been snooping on his page and trying to keep this story, in the limelight, because it's people like that and like us who are trying to keep this person, relevant, because we want people to know who this person is. We don't want anyone else to be victimized, and we don't want any more statutory rape stories within the cosplay community or in any community, because it's not fair. It's not fair that someone gets to do this and then just get away scot-free. Like, no, it has to stop now.
It's very personal to me because my Katsukan was kind of like very hellish last year because, unfortunately for me and a few other Asian dudes, we all fit the same description.
Right.
So at last year's Katsukan, let me do a side note real quick. So there were supposed sightings of Ryzen, right? And someone took a picture of me and was like, oh, I saw Ryzen. And one of my friends showed me.
Oh my
And
God.
my friend had to correct him, like, no, that's not Ryzen, that's Renji. They're like, oh,
But that's been happening for years, like
oh yeah,
since
oh yeah,
before this guy
yeah.
got caught.
Another side note, because Ryzen and I are about the same size, like same height, similar body builds,
Same complexion.
same skin tone. We both jungle Asians, right? So we got the same skin tone, and we both wear hats. The only difference is I don't wear a tracksuit and douchey stunner shades like I own a pawn shop in New York. That's how you can tell the difference between us because I don't even like wearing shades. Even back in the Chicago scene, there was a few times where people mistake me for being him and vice versa. And it's been carrying on for years.
Yeah.
I was at Youmacon last year, and a girl on the train was like, "Hey, do you know someone named Ryzen?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" "Oh, are you Renji?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "Well, funny story. I was at a room party, right? And it was Ryzen's room party, and two people were apparently fans of Renji's YouTube, and they came up to Ryzen like, 'Dude, we're such big fans of your YouTube. We love you, fan service Renji.' And he was like, 'Oh, my name is Ryzen.'" So again, that just clarified it to me that people do think we're the same people. Back to Katsukan. I was like, oh, hell no. People ain't about to be taking pictures of me and sharing it to their
Oh
friends
my goodness.
saying that I'm Ryzen. So the funny thing about that weekend, I met another photographer who is my size, height, skin tone from Canada. And he also was wearing a hat. And I pulled him aside. I'm like, hey, have people been mistaking you for Ryzen as well? He's like, yeah, I've been hearing this shit about Ryzen.
Oh my god,
So-
it's not fair.
It is not fair. So he and I went live on Instagram, and I had to make a point to clarify that
That's
neither
sad.
one of us is Ryzen. Some of y'all saw the video, but yeah, it's just kind of made it really bad for a lot of us now. A lot of us Asian photographers that have that same look. Anyways, we're gonna fast forward to this year's Katsukan. And for him to have another fucking countdown as if he didn't already have a countdown before. So again, you're just repeating the things you've done. So he has a countdown to his grand return. But he also posted on his photographer shit saying that, oh, he's going to have to collab with this other photographer because due to situations, he can't just return on his own. But this is the way that he's going to be able to take pictures again and work with certain people.
Like, who do you think you are? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
why?
Like, how normal is it gonna look that there's this photographer that has his whole face covered that doesn't want to show his face? Would you like go do a shoot with somebody that's not gonna show their face whatsoever?
No.
Especially if you don't even know him or have seen his work, and he's like, yeah, I don't show my face. That's kind of my thing.
Well, maybe if I were, naive and didn't think anything of it.
All you see are his eyes if he's not wearing goggles. Even Batman shows his mouth. Like, you ain't greater than Batman, bitch. Unless you Kakashi Sensei, ain't no one trying to live with that.
Nobody's buying it.
Yeah, and like how creepy is it? Hey, you want to do a photo shoot? I can't tell you my name or show you my
But
face.
you have to keep it a secret.
Yeah, you gotta keep it a secret.
It can't ever be known.
And then what's funny is the photographer that he was trying to collab with is also a known alleged pedophile creepy photographer.
Like, when will it stop? I don't understand. Like, why must they join forces? I don't know. Like, this is not the Avengers.
Two wrongs don't make a right, and two pedophiles definitely don't make a right.
Like, you got off. Like, don't start shit again. You want to go to jail because that's how you go to jail. Like, stop doing these things to put yourself back into that situation.
No, and it's like, especially when you're snitching on yourself.
Especially when you know it's wrong and you just keep doing it. Like, there must be something wrong with you. Like, the same with R. Kelly, the same with any pedophile ever. It's like, you have something wrong with you in your mind to think that I'm going to take advantage of this young person and just do what I want with them because they're young, because they're not going to think about it. Even if they're not young, like, if you're just a naive person, like, they know that already. They have scouted you. They have seen you. They have studied you enough to where they know that they can get something from you. And it's like, why? What's wrong with you?
it's like the whole community is watching you, and you just gonna risk it.
Especially in a cosplay community, like this community, we look out for each other. At least I think we should do it more often because there's children, there's children's children, like people's kids are going to these things and you're doing this to them. It's like a buffet for you. It's just, I don't know. Like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, and it definitely has put a bad note on like cosplay photographers because there are a
Hmm.
lot of great ones out there, a lot of really decent, wholesome human beings that are just out taking pictures for cosplayers for free for the love of cosplay.
And there's nothing innocent anymore. There's nothing sacred anymore. Like you have nieces and nephews that go to these things
Yeah,
all the time now too, and they're young, they're impressionable, they're just doing these things because they think it's fun and they want to do it. But you got to look out for your people. You have to look out for everybody
yeah.
now.
So for those of y'all going to Katsucon this weekend, if you see a masked photographer or b-boy, chances are
Just stay away.
yeah. And for those of y'all in the b-boy community that know who this motherfucker is, and y'all still like, trying to like cover up for him,
You think it's funny?
then y'all trash too.
Yeah.
Y'all trash too. I'm not gonna put y'all names out there, but y'all who was a part of his crew when all this grooming was going on, because I do remember his crew, his little b-boy crew, y'all traveled as a pact. So if y'all aren't already guilty by association, this cover up is definitely putting y'all in that boat too. Just like R. Kelly and the people around him, his people knew what was going on. If you watch that Surviving R. Kelly documentary on Netflix, people knew what he was doing and they allowed him to do it.
And you're just as guilty as he is because you stand by and watch something. It doesn't mean that you're innocent. It doesn't mean just because you didn't do it yourself, you're still watching something happen. You're still watching something unfold, and you did nothing about it. I know it has nothing to do with you personally, but still, like, why would you let that go on? Like, why would you see something like that and just be like, it's just Ryzen. It's just, that's just what he does. What in your head makes you think that it's okay for someone to just let them just do what they want to do? That's sick. It's
Hmm.
sick.
Whatever B-Boys is trying to protect his identity at Katsucon, like I'm calling all of y'all out right now.
Seriously. If this happens again and you're still in that situation, you're still in that group and you're still watching it happen, just because he got off like this last time, it's gonna happen again. Like Kimmy's not the first and she's definitely not the last.
No, because even when her story came out, other girls came out too and provided their own little Google drives
Exactly.
of evidence. So it's not like this was an isolated incident. Like this is
Right.
what he does. Like this has been his game,
It's
his
just his
hustle.
MO, yeah.
Yeah.
So if he got off this last time, he's gonna keep doing it because he thinks that he's untouchable. So that's why we need to keep this in the media. We need to keep talking about it because he's not gonna just go away,
Yeah.
and we're not gonna let it just go away.
No. After really looking back in hindsight, it was kind of expected that some shady shit was going on behind the scenes because he was trying too hard to sell dreams. It was kind of expected. It's not a surprise. This next person we're going to talk about, this was very unexpected.
Very.
Like, this came out of nowhere. This person has been labeled as such a sweetheart, so trusted. Because not only did he delve in the cosplay world, he was a fashion photographer in LA.
Mm-hmm.
He would take pictures on the runway. He was an established person.
Right.
A lot of people vouched for him.
Yes.
And he was,
I vouched for
yeah,
him.
he was the guy to go to, the guy you can trust. If there was one person that everybody recommended in the cosplay scene in SoCal, it was him.
Yeah, he was another convention staple. Saw him all the time. He was a good guy, a good personable guy. He was very quiet, but you didn't really think twice about him.
Yeah, like I said, everyone felt safe around him.
Mm-hmm.
The photographer we are talking about goes by the name of Michael Benedict. I don't know if that's his government name, but that's what he had on Instagram, whatever. As we said earlier, super trusted, super recommended by not only cosplayers, but other photographers. He would host group cosplay shoots at some of the local photography studios around SoCal. He's been doing this for a while. It's a regular thing. Well, the last one he did, there were cosplayers that discovered a hidden spy cam in the dressing room. The girl picked up the camera, looked at the viewfinder, and found pictures and video of not only of herself from that day, but other shoots previously, I forget the exact number, but there was hundreds and hundreds of video clips and photos on this camera. Like, he didn't delete past shoots. So this isn't the first time he's done it. She made this public. And why we can drop his name publicly is he tried to do damage control, and he messaged everyone at that shoot individually, pretty much confessing that that was his camera, that he messed up, that it wasn't right. So he snitched on himself.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no question of, oh, was it his? No, it was definitely his. He confessed that that was his camera, that he messed up, and he's sorry. This story didn't really break past SoCal because as soon as this happened, the girls wanted to press charges. So they asked the local SoCal community to not speak on it because it was going to court. So for y'all that aren't here, y'all may not have heard about it. But yeah, it was a big thing. Shauna, like, you have shot with him. Like,
Multiple times.
how did that make you feel when you heard about that?
Initially, it made me feel like why him? You know, when someone told me about this, it was someone who doesn't even live here. It was someone who lived, you know, in a different state, and they're like, "Oh, you're in SoCal. Watch out for this photographer." And I'm like, initially, I'm like, no, not Michael, not this guy that I've always shot with and has never held a candle to. He was never one of those people who I would ever think that something like this would ever happen to him. Something that he did, you know, and it was crazy to know that. It was crazy that he did something like that.
Yeah, and he didn't even try to fight it. There was no denial.
Yeah.
As soon as it surfaced, he confessed to it.
Cuz this guy, he was very quiet. Like I never knew much about him. He just seemed like he lived a very quiet and private life. And so like he wasn't loud and obnoxious like, you know, Ryzen is. And he was never really in the media like that, but like, you know, it was just one of those things where you see something happening to this person, you see them doing something malicious, and it's like, what?
Yeah. I think back now, and I still can't believe it either. I
I-
still shake my head like, wow.
Yeah, he was never flashy. He was never very talkative, but you know, it's just still like you never know about people.
Yeah, he used to just show up at cons, find a good location to set up.
He kept to himself.
Yeah, and all you had to do was walk up to him. As long as he was free, he would take your picture.
Exactly.
He didn't charge you. He didn't do anything. He would set up, and he would take pictures of anyone that came up and asked him.
Exactly.
And it was sad. It really did hurt, even for me. Like, wow, dude. Like,
Because I didn't know him personally, but it still broke my heart because he just didn't seem like that kind of guy. When he got dragged down, going into like a negative light, like it just broke my heart because it was so unnecessary what he did. It was just so unnecessary.
yeah.
He wasn't manipulating anyone. He didn't have a relationship with these people. It just, you know, some people have fetishes and some people have, you know, these dark hobbies that they like to do, and it didn't seem fair. Like, what do you mean Michael Benedict did this? You know, because he just never seemed like that kind of person
Yeah.
ever.
What I found interesting after all that, because it was silenced pretty quick. Half of it was silenced because it was going to be a legal issue. So they didn't want it to get out of control before it went to court. I think the other half silenced it because people that knew him, I felt that they were feeling guilty by association.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't the only photographer a part of those like group studio
Yeah.
shoots. Without dropping specific names, we noticed certain photographers started acting really weird after that because
Right.
they were there with him during those group shoots. On one end, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're just trying to separate themselves
Right.
from him. But on the other end, you're like, were they in on it too?
Right.
Were they a part of the creepy spy cam shit? You started to see this new divide with the photographers. Some people decided to speak on it, and they were like, yeah, I knew Michael. That's a shame, blah, blah, blah. Speak their piece. But then there was other people that were trying to defend him, but weren't at the
Yeah.
same time, and they
Or
would.
just never said anything about it. Like just wanted to, exclude it altogether and just didn't want to touch on it.
Yeah, but yet some of these people would still go on Instagram and be like, "Oh, I need to talk about this Michael thing," but they just kind of rambled like, "Bitch, what are you trying to say? Are you for him? Are you against him?"
They just didn't want anyone to think that they had anything to do with it because they were in the situation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the cosplayers that were there getting their pictures taken were like thinking something too. Like,
Yeah, they're
I
like,
don't know
"Oh,
if I should talk about
yeah,
this person.
Yeah, they're like,
or-
"Well, he was there too."
Yeah.
But if you're gonna go online and try to say something, say something.
Yeah.
Some of these dudes would be like, so, yeah, like literally, that's what one dude said.
They didn't know what to say.
He just kind of scratched his head, like, bro, you could have just wrote some shit down,
Right.
or something, but you don't go on Instagram and just scratch your head and be.
They might as well just say like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. All right, Shaggy. All right, thanks. It wasn't you.
Because
You
like, there's
know?
no telling like what their involvement was, but like, why would you tell them yourself?
Yeah.
You know?
And then to just disappear from social media, I'm like, you just adding to the sketch factor right now. Like,
But like,
first-
put yourself in their shoes. Like,
I
what would
know.
you do? Like, how
Yeah.
would you feel?
Well, I wouldn't go online and just scratch my head and be like, I mean, I've been in the midst of a lot of controversy. I run my mouth on my YouTube. Like, I'll say what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. I'll say what I mean. So if I go online, I'm gonna say something.
Right.
It may not be off the top of my head. I'll script it and let my friends read it if it's something like that. At the very least, just like you said, you could have said it wasn't me.
Right.
I was there. Boom. Like, defend yourself. But
Because it's awkward at all costs. Like you were there, you saw this person. I don't know if they saw Michael doing it, or if I don't know if they knew about it, but like they were still there, and just because you never had a part in it, like you would still want to clear your name because they're gonna associate you with that person from the time on. You know.
yeah. So the aftermath of that we witnessed here in SoCal, there was a spurt of, hey, I'm not a creepy photographer. You can work with me.
Oh yeah, I've
Oh,
gotten that a lot of
yep.
times. After that whole situation, I was at a convention and this photographer literally came up to me and was like, "Oh, you can shoot with me. I'm not a creepy photographer. I'm not going to do anything sketchy. And if you want me to walk you to your car afterwards, I can do that too. I'm not a freak or anything." I'm like, "I didn't say anything. I said hello."
And that in itself is some creepy shit. Like, a serial killer doesn't come to you and go, "Hey, I'm
I'm not a killer."
I'm a serial killer. Let me shake your hand." No, he will say some shit like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, would you like me to walk you to the car?" It's like, no,
Like,
I don't.
No, absolutely nobody. And I'm just like, I don't know what to say here.
If there was anything scarier a cosplayer could hear, it'd be like, "Hey, I'm not creepy. Let me walk you to your car
I'm like,
with my
dude,
camera."
relax with my camera. I didn't know what to say with that, but like this shook people up for the longest time, and it's just how else would you react to it?
This was weeks after this Michael Benedict
Mm-hmm.
and probably a month after the Ryzen thing.
Yeah.
That's some serial killer stuff right there. To be like, "I'm not creepy. You can trust me."
And that's what's so crazy about it. Like that, the whole Ryzen thing and the Michael Bennett thing did happen one after the other.
Oh yeah, it was just this domino effect.
And I was just waiting for the next person to be called out. Honestly, I'm like, who else? Who else is gonna come forward and say some shit? Like on somebody that I know, on somebody that I've heard of. Like, what else is gonna happen? Like, I was literally waiting for that.
Oh yeah, and what makes these two stories so impactful was there were confessions.
Yeah.
And there was proof behind it. Every once in a while, like, there's always an accusation of, "Oh, this person did this and this is," like, you don't want to victim blame. You want to believe their story. At the same time, you also want to see proof, because there's
Right.
been so many people that have been called out
Mhm.
with no proof, but they got canceled because one person said something that wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I personally have met these people. Like, I've had friends that have been called out
Mm-hmm.
with no proof, and it totally destroyed them. So I feel that you want to believe the victim, because it takes a lot to even come out, but you also got to be like mature enough to wait for evidence
Right.
too. You never know who they're calling out because they're all also fake call outs just because there's a personal grudge with someone. We've had a friend in Chicago, a girl personally claimed and she swore up and down that this happened. So it was a con. Wait, it was like, I don't even know. It was like 10, 12 plus years
It
ago
was a long time
before
ago.
the digital video era, right? She claimed that he came to her room, knew that her and her friends were undressing and changing cosplay, that he barged in the door and filmed them while they were like changing and naked.
Mm-hmm.
Comes to find out, since he used to be a videographer, I'm talking about he used to film on those shoulder cannons with the VHS tape. For those that don't know, like a lot of y'all are younger. Okay, camcorders back then.
Camcorders.
Yeah. Y'all don't even know what a camcorder is. Okay, think of a rocket launcher on your shoulder about this big. Like that's how big personal cameras used to be, right? So he had this arm rocket, and you used to have to put in a tape. Y'all don't even know what tapes are. Okay.
His explanation is so 90s. It's like, who would know what you're talking about?
Video used to be recorded on actual film tape. Okay, so for you, anyone under the age of 30, I've never seen this. So you had a camcorder, arm rocket that recorded video. So the tape you put in was this big. It was... You might as well put this pad of paper inside the arm rocket. Like, that's how big it was, right? He filmed the whole ordeal because him and his friend were returning back to the room that the friend stayed in. So he was a videographer at the time. So he just filmed them walking and talking. What he actually caught on tape was nothing that she said. And luckily for him, he kept the camera rolling.
Mm-hmm.
So all you did see was the girls come to the room, kick the guys out. It was probably not funny. They jiggled the door like they were gonna come in, but he had the camera rolling and they never went inside.
Mm-hmm.
They were like jiggling the door and the girls were like, hey, we're changing, but they never went inside.
Right.
And then the only time he did go inside was after they got done changing. And you see this all on video.
Luckily, he kept that tape.
Yeah, from start to finish, you just see him doing all this, and then you can hear them saying, okay, it's safe to come in. And then he goes in, camera still rolling, everyone's dressed. And that was the end of the video.
Right.
He had to dig through some crates in his attic, but he found the proof.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an eye-opener to be like, see? Y'all can't believe every call out, but he was one of the rare incidences where he had proof that made him innocent.
Right.
And she did really destroy his con scene and his con life because he was a photographer, like an official photographer for a lot of events.
Another convention staple, someone who's always at conventions, stuff like that.
And he lost a lot of credibility.
Yep.
He lost a lot of opportunities and bookings to where he actually had to sue her for defamation.
Mm-hmm.
And good for him, because that makes a statement that you just ain't going to be out here calling out people just because you have a personal grudge. This happened so long ago that she waited until now to do it, but it's just because she had some recent beef or something and decided to call him out on some old stuff. But good for him for keeping everything, and then for him to clap back to defend the people that are innocent. And he sued her for a lot too. So I'm glad he won.
I'm glad.
It took a while to win the case. I'm not talking like a couple $100. I'm talking like tens of thousands of dollars that he won this civil case.
And that's what I want everyone to understand the difference. Like, you can come on the mic, you can go on the internet and whatever and talk whatever kind of shit you want to about somebody. But unless you have proof about something, it just comes to be like this whole messy ordeal. But like, we're only coming on here talking about this because there is a difference between someone who's got proof about something that happened, and then someone who didn't have proof that happened, that they said happened. So we just wanted to bring something that had proof to be in the limelight, because again, because this person got off scot free for that incident, he thinks that he can just keep doing it again and again and again, and I'm sure it will happen again. But this is why we want to keep it in the limelight, because there was evidence, there were victims that came forward, and I don't want anyone or any of you to think that just because this person's famous, just because they're bigger than you are, that you can't come forward, no matter how old you might think it is and how irrelevant you think it might be. Like, you still need to come forward, you still need to have your story told, and if there's people like us who will keep it out there.
And if you're on the other end and you're being called out and you are innocent, it's worth fighting to prove your innocence.
There it is, because nothing's worth your name.
Yeah. And I had another friend actually that was just called out last year just because there was a personal grudge and it almost ruined him.
Yeah.
Just like this previous story, he had proof and he defended himself. So don't be afraid to fight for your innocence if you know you didn't do anything wrong.
Doesn't matter, again, like, it doesn't matter who's coming after you. It doesn't matter if they're bigger than you. If you know your name can be cleared, you can prove it, you can speak your piece and whatever, just do it.
Yeah, because there are people out here that want to hear the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So don't just assume that just because the cosplay witch hunt is on that you've automatically been destroyed. Because like, we're not stupid. I mean, some of us are, but like, but still, there's people, yeah, and unfortunately, you will lose some people from your side. And if some people are that stupid just to cancel you without any kind of proof, then you don't need them in your life anyway. Yeah, it's just all these call-outs has really changed the climate of cosplay photography. Shana told the story about this guy telling her in person how he's not creepy. But then, like, another thing I noticed was the opportunists just popped up. People would be like, oh, so-and-so, yeah, it's sad that so-and-so was a creep, but I know photographers that aren't creeps. You can work with this person and that person. So people use these moments to advertise for either themselves or their friends. I'm like, oh, how convenient
Right.
that you popped up out of nowhere at this point because of this whole Michael Benedict, a very trusted and vouched for photographer, got caught up. We don't know these people.
Exactly.
And how do we know if they're any more trustworthy than someone that a whole community vouched for?
Right.
Yeah, it was a very tough time to be an Asian photographer, especially within the cosplay community. I was like, why'd they have to be Asian? It's like, can we throw in one random race?
Can
right
it be
now?
someone else?
Can we mix it up? It's like, no. Yeah, so the opportunists popped up. Not saying that all these people were sketchy, but it's at the same time, it's like,
You can never tell, though.
yeah, at the same time, it's like, we don't know you and we don't know your friend. And the triple whammy was when that same person recommended either themselves or a new person, but if you knew them long enough, at one point they also recommended Michael Benedict.
Oh my god.
So it's like, yeah, but weren't you the same guy that was like, oh, shoot with Michael, he's super trustworthy. But now you recommending a whole new person that nobody knows? Yeah, it was a very interesting climate for photographers within the cosplay scene. Like 2019, there was so many call outs.
And shame on them for making a situation even more worse. Like, why do you have to make this situation even more toxic than it already is?
Yeah.
Like, stop doing that. Stop being an opportunist. Stop piggybacking off of an already shitty situation. Like, you're just making it worse.
Yeah. So I guess just moving forward, all you can really do now is if there's a photographer you want to work with, look at their work, but look at who they shot. What I've done before is I've reached out to other cosplayers they've shot with and just asked what their experience was. And that's really all you can do. You don't want to go on not trusting everybody.
Right.
Because at some point, it's going to like destroy you to be that paranoid. Because, again, not everyone's a creepy-ass photographer. So you have to trust somebody at some point. What I do, I look at their work and I reach out to some of the people and ask how their experience was. So if people can say not other friends, other photographer, but clients they've worked with, if they say they felt comfortable, everything was cool, then that's a good starting point. Or you can just not trust anyone and take your own photos. I mean, that's an option too. If you confident enough just to buy yourself a camera and shoot your own pictures, then cool. Be an independent person. But if you're not about that life, because I'm really not. I hate taking pictures of myself because I suck at it. You just can't hate everybody.
Yeah.
With all that said, I think we have covered a lot of ground, way more than I expected to for episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's for a good cause, you know?
Yeah, it really is. Like, these call outs happen and they're hot for the moment and they get forgotten so quickly.
They disappear.
But luckily for us, this dumbass just keeps snitching on himself and keeps putting himself back in the spotlight. So thank you for snitching on yourself.
Thank you guys for hanging in there. I know this is kind of dark. I know this is kind of like, unconventional and stuff like that. But I promise we're going to have more fun in the future. We're going to talk about a lot of cool things. We have so much to talk about. But, again, this came at a good cause because we want to keep things like this in the limelight because I don't want anyone thinking that they're going to just get away with things and just disappear into the background. No, hunty. Like, we got you. We got you. And we see you.
Yeah, we see you. KatsuCon's coming up. Dude's talking about making his grand return, so be on the lookout for the masks, b-boy, photographer, douche, pedophile, whatever label he prefers. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. I'm fan service Renji.
I'm Shana Mostella.
And this was episode 1 of the Shinobi Squad Podcast.
Yes.
I hope someone can edit some ninja stars because
any graphic designers out there?
If someone can edit ninja stars in videos, let me know because I think that'd be dope if I end the podcast going. All right, thanks, guys.
Stay safe out there.